we're gonna let the traffic through, and I'm just gonna do a one pedal run, which means I'm just gonna go from brake to full throttle without boosting at all. So we're ready. 3, 2, 1, let's go. This is not your typical Q5 that you see every day. It is the Sportback version, which means it has the sloped rear end. And I personally do find this car much more unique than a typical Q5 that I see almost everywhere. Welcome back, everyone. Today we have a 2023 Audi Q5 Sportback on our channel. As always, I'm going to show you the exterior and interior of the car. We will take it for a test drive and then do some 0 to 60 draggy tests as well. And I will share my summary and impressions with you at the end of the video. But unlike our usual test drives, this one is going to be more extensive. I've had this car for quite some time now, put a good amount of miles on her, so I have many more impressions to share with you than usual. But let's start her up. This is not your typical Q5 that you see every day. It is the Sportback version, which means it has the sloped rear end. And I personally do find this car much more unique than a typical Q5 that I see almost everywhere. It's got solid lines everywhere. The accents down below, they're titanium silver accents, I would say. But let's hop in the back. The doors here have a good solid sound when they close. I will show you up front. I am 6'2", and I feel like there's plenty of room here for me in the back. We've got our cup holders. And we even have the sunshade here, which is really neat. The climates, chargers, outlet, pockets. This is plastic right here, probably meant for keeping, the kids from damaging the leather if they're kicking with their legs. Nice big panoramic sunroof. I'm not sure if this Audi has the feature where you can just swipe your leg down below and it's going to open the trunk, but let's check. Maybe it does. Nope. Doesn't have it. This Audi does come with the new setup. This is a 2.0T engine, 4-cylinder, and it pumps out 261 horsepower. And it's made it to a 7-speed automated manual, which is called a DCT or DSG with Volkswagens. But one thing that I do have to point out about the Audis is that the doors here are very heavy in some of the models. You gotta open it, it's very heavy. The door is super heavy, so you got to put a lot of force into it to open it and close it, and then it closes with this nice satisfying sound. But if a child is trying to open the door, it's going to be more difficult for them to do that because they are very, very heavy doors. Like, I would actually have to put effort into them. Throughout today's video, my goal is to compare this car with the competition and what they offer for the same amount of money, and to talk about, you know, the positives and the negatives here that I found throughout my daily use of this car. So to begin with, we are faced with very comfortable seats, a good layout. You can see everything around you easily. And let's look at the infotainment. So we have all the vehicle settings here. And then you can do all your options and setups here. And then we can also change the view of the cockpit like that, which I think is pretty cool. This one does not have the built-in navigation. It has the cubbies, dual climate. And I do like the fact that Audi still sticks to using these physical buttons everywhere. They're easy to see, easy to use. One thing I have to say, I wish that Audi did is kept the knob with the control, the dials here, because when you're driving and you want to do something, you always have to touch the screen, and it can be a little bit frustrating after a while, and you don't always hit the right spot. Beside that, the screen is good, crisp and clear. Let's do a wiper test and then the horn test, and we shall get started. One thing that I love about this car is the ride. Very comfortable. I've taken this car on some road trips and I was not tired a single time. The suspension here is soft, pleasant, and you do not feel speed at all. When you're going 80 or 90 or whatever speed you want to say you're going at, it feels like you're doing 35, 45 miles an hour. The sound isolation is also superb. There's no wind noise, no tire noise. The only thing you can hear is just a little bit of the engine and the AC blowing. The wheel is nice to touch, along with high quality materials everywhere around the cabin. So, you know, the wood, the plastic, even the blinkers here are very soft, comfortable to touch. I was also quite impressed by the performance of this car. With 261 horsepower, I gotta say Audi is highly underrating this power. We're gonna do some draggy tests to confirm my predictions, but I think this SUV is pushing out closer to 290 to 300 horsepower, in my opinion, because the way it picks up is fantastic. Now, having driven this and the SQ5, I actually don't see such a big difference between them performance-wise. This Q5 with the DCT actually has a smaller amount of lag off the line than the SQ5 with the ZF8 transmission. Because in the SQ5, if you're standing at a light and you floor it, it's almost a second worth of delay between when the car actually starts to kick in and go, and it's a very noticeable delay that you see right away in your driving. The infotainment is fairly easy to use. Again, it's not my ideal infotainment on this section. I much prefer the iDrive with the knob, where you can do all your controls not only on the screen, but with the knob. The virtual cockpit is great. It's very customizable. It's nice on the eyes. Has all the information you want. and you can change a lot of different styles. So it's a great feature to have. This one does not have the heads-up display, but that is an option on these cars with the Prestige package. But I'm not a fan of Audi's heads-up displays. They aren't as sophisticated and techy as BMW heads-up displays. Because with BMW heads-up displays, they show you when you're going over the limit, their color changes, you have the sport gauges there where you can see like the RPM, red line. It's very engaging compared to Audi's heads-up display. The handling of this Q5, it's much to the lighter side, so you can actually steer with just your pinky. That's how light the steering is. And it does not change throughout any conditions, which means you can be going 90, it's going to be just as light, and you can be going 20 and it's just as light. So there's no actual feedback from the wheel at higher speeds. It feels like this. The gas pedal here is hanging. It's not a floor mounted pedal like you will find in the BMW or Genesis. And it's a matter of just preference and taste of what you want to do. You know, because for me, I prefer floor mounted pedals, but that's again just my choice. But everybody prefers different things. So oops, whoops. Okay, we're gonna have to move back. Ah, yeah, the camera. We have a 360 camera that has a lot of different views here. We can do like this, like this. Again, compared to the BMW, this is not as of an advanced camera as they have. Because there you have like a car wash camera, 360 camera, we can see the full 3D model of the car. And you can swivel it around. And you can see every different angle, you got the self-park. And it's so much more informative in BMW. And the angle of the camera here, it doesn't depict reality correctly. It will show you that you're really far away from something, but in reality, you're much closer to it. So that's my only gripe with it. But for normal, everyday use, I find it more than plenty. But taking up these corners, the car does feel stable, but at higher speeds, when you're taking fast corners, you do sense quite some body roll. So the car is not as planted as you would want a performance SUV to be planted, but this is just a regular Q5, so I'm not going to go into that detail. If we're talking about a BMW, the BMW does gobble up these corners with ease and with much less roll and more confidence. Even the regular X3 or X4. I'm not going to even talk about the M1s, the M40i or just the X4M, because those are monsters in corners. They handle like sedans. But for normal civilian driving, the handling here is great. Definitely to the comfortable side. This is not a car with sporty handling. The handling is secure, comfortable, but not meant for taking up mountain curves at high speeds, just so you know. From the virtual cockpit, this is my favorite setting of the gauges. It's just old school, old style, how it used to be in the first virtual cockpits, so that's why I like it. The DCT here is responsive. It knows what you're trying to do, but there is a sense of delay when you're driving at speed. Unless you do a kick down, there's still some delay. It gets into the right gear, it engages, and then you're going. So you will have a slight delay. It's not going to be like instant. It's not going to do that. It's not going to have that. So you have to just be mindful of that. And when the light turns green, I'm going to go into dynamic mode and show you what I'm talking about. The delay that I'm talking about. So I press the gas, then we're going. See, that is the moment between when the car rolls and actually starts to move. Not a big deal, but just so you're mindful of that and know that it's there. I don't want to heat up the car too much right now because we want to get the best times for our draggy runs. Oh, and also I must have forgotten to point out, this car does have the ventilated seats as well. Not something that you'll find in an S6 per se, which is, and kudos to Audi for implementing that. BMW also has a perpendicular camera where you can see both sides more, and it's of better quality than here. But yeah, let's go for it. The brakes here are solid. I've not noticed any fade during my stops. So I do wonder how long these rotors can last without having to be replaced. And there's a GD70 over there. Driving this compared to a traditional ZF8 is different, especially when you're moving at speed. The way this transmission engages is there's a bigger delay than normal. So if you're going 50 and you want to pass someone, you give it gas, it thinks, downshifts, engages, and then you're going. So it's something that you have to get used to in the beginning, but once you're used to it, you know how to time your passing properly. It becomes much easier. All right, so the draggy is connected. I like the kick. It moves well, and we leave traffic behind easily. And that was 6.2 seconds just from idle. No launch control, and we did 6.25. And now let's do the speedometer accuracy test. So at 65 we are seeing 63. And from my experience so far, that gap does get bigger when you're going faster. So at 90 there's going to be a 3 mile per hour gap, and it does remain very consistent throughout, you know, further speed. I'm very interested to find out what this car does from launch control, because so far it's giving me high hopes on how it accelerates. We're gonna also disable the stabilization control. So what is, let me see if I actually hold it for 2 seconds, what the difference will be. Okay, ESC off, and then I'm going to put it to ESC off. Okay. Let's do that. Okay. At very low speeds, when you're just slightly touching the gas, you can feel a little bit of hesitation. You can feel the DCT at work. So to overcome that, you gotta press the gas a little bit harder so it doesn't choke. That's the right word for it that I can come up with, is to choke. we're gonna try and do a U-turn test here, see how good the Q5 U-turns. But so far, as I've mentioned, I've been very impressed with this little crossover. I would even call it a car, to be honest, because it feels more like a car than an SUV. All right, so the first run that we're gonna do is gonna be off idle, and then the second run I'm gonna turn off AC, and we're gonna do a hardcore launch control run to get the best possible time. Very good U-turn. So let's come here, come to a complete stop. We're gonna let the traffic through, and I'm just gonna do a one pedal run, which means I'm just gonna go from brake to full throttle without boosting at all. So we're ready, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, 6.5 seconds. All right, so let's look at the times that we got. So we did 0 to 60 in 6.54 seconds. And we did our quarter mile at 14.65 at 98.4 miles an hour. And then the 1/8 mile came in 9.59 at 76.76. Those are good times. Remember, this car weighs almost 4,200 pounds, almost, and only has 261 horsepower on paper. But let's get the draggy over here. Maybe it's gonna help with accuracy a little bit more if we put it right here. And this run we're gonna do from launch control. Well, so far from my observations, the performance hasn't really changed between the older Q5, like the 2019 or 2020, and this. And that one I would also do like 6.4, 6.5 seconds off idle, about the same thing. But the trap speed most likely did increase by a little bit, by like a mile or 2 per hour, because the electric engine does help with that. Yeah, let's keep the draggy over here. That'll be better. So I'm gonna cool down the car for a little bit. We don't want to overheat it. One more thing that you have to notice with Audi cars is that their cooling from the factory is not very strong. You give the car a few good runs and it starts to heat up quite fast. BMWs, on the other hand, their cooling is superb. So you can drive like an hour with your pedal to the metal and it's gonna feel just as fine and consistent as it is. And that is the thing that I genuinely love about BMWs, is how consistent their performance is in any weather, whether it be 100 degrees outside or 20 degrees, it's always on spot. I'm not as close to the 4-cylinder models, so I haven't driven that many of them. I've mostly driven the 6-cylinder and the 8-cylinder versions, and like I said, they never had a single issue with that. Very consistent. All right, so I turned off the air conditioner. I'm gonna reset the draggy, and when the light turns green, we're gonna U-turn and hit it with launch control. All right, let's do it. Alrighty, let's do it. Alrighty, let's do this. Alright, so reset the draggy. 3, 2, 1. Launch control is active, let's go. Oh, we get these shift kicks. Okay. So we did 0 to 60 in 5.61 seconds, and the quarter mile at actually 13.09 99 at 98.5, so the same exact trap speed as before. And then the 1/8 mile was at 78.35, and we got 9 seconds flat. So we did break the 14-second barrier on the 1/4 mile, but it's right at 14 seconds. And in this weather, I feel like this is the best that we could have done, because I have the best gas in the car, half a tank. Conditions are fairly good in that sense. There's no extra weight in the car right now. The weather is 80 something degrees, so that is the only factor from keeping it and getting better time. But I think this is solid performance, good times. So this is about 0.4 seconds slower, 0.5 seconds slower than the SQ5 from launch control. Now we're gonna do some highway driving, and I will summarize my impressions with you about this car. If you're trying to get the most performance, the sportiest driving experience, and the best handling, you're better off at looking at the X3, ideally the X3 M40i or the X3M, because those SAVs, as BMW calls them, sport activity vehicles, they offer unmatched handling. Every crossover that I've driven in this class, whether it be the Genesis, the Audi, the GLC, Mercedes, none of them even come close to how the BMW holds corners and drives, and the brakes, the braking power, the acceleration, it's unmatched by any other car in this class. Even the 4-cylinder version of the X3 will still be a way sportier experience than this car. Starting from the transmission, to the handling, to the rear-wheel drive bias, it's a more engaging driving partner. The Genesis may be worth a look as well. Yeah, buddy, I see you. Yeah, buddy, I see you. But the X3 will give you that unmatched driving dynamics, or driving dynamic, if we say correctly. But the Audi is a great all-around option if you're trying to nope, there's a car. But as you see, this power is plenty for any maneuver that you want to do. Whether you're driving aggressively or just calmly, it's got lots of power everywhere. And when you floor it, you get an immediate response. Just a little delay, that's all. But that's, again, that's just the way the DCT's, that is the way the DCT works. So, build quality is excellent. I do wish the screen was bigger. I do wish we had a floor-mounted pedal. I do wish we had a controller with buttons here that we could easily transition to different screens. Because here, you know, I'm trying to like do ways. You know, I'm trying to like hit it. It takes some time to. You see, I was trying to hit back, but then it opens this menu. So that is my gripe and the drawback that I see here. Again, the screen could have been a little bigger. Not a big deal. The blind spot system here does come on very early, so if a car is far away behind you, it's not even in your blind zone yet, it still lights up. And unlike BMW, it does not have the feedback in the wheel in the case that there's a car there. Because with the BMW, you put on the blinker, if there's a car in your blind zone, you're gonna get some feedback in the steering wheel. don't feel speed on this Audi at all. And again, look at how comfortable the handling here is. Very consistent. Very consistent, very solid. And like I said, there's no fade whatsoever from the brakes. This is the delay I was talking about. It thinks for a little bit, engages, and then goes. So to summarize things up, if you're looking for an all-around comfortable crossover to safely go from A to B and have fun while you're at it, then the Q5 may very well be the right car for you. If you're looking for something more dynamic, sporty, engaging while keeping the luxury and giving you more features and more intuitive controls and better infotainment, then that is for sure the BMW. And like I said, the BMW, it really has everything that I personally like. The X3, it has the floor mounted pedal, a more aggressive exhaust, way more driving modes, they're way more customizable. You have the physical buttons, a bigger screen, more technology. You also get included maintenance for 3 years and 36,000 miles with BMW as well. You don't have to opt for Audi Care or add anything extra to the price. So if I was looking for a crossover in this segment, I would go with the X3 or X4. I would personally do the X4 because I like the slope styling of the rear. And I would add the M Sport package, the Harman car, and all these things. And it would be a perfect car. But my ideal take is the X4 or X3, X4 M40i. The 6-cylinder and the B58 are just unmatched in this class. They punch so much farther than they're stated to be. I've enjoyed driving this Audi. I think it's given me lots of good emotions and fun, and very comfortable road trip car. I could easily see myself taking this Audi on a 13-hour road trip. Great pleasure to drive. So I will note the BMW suspension is stiffer. It's going to be much stiffer if you go for the sporty one, especially like 80, 90. It's going to feel way stiffer. Well, thank you so much everyone for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this, and make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Until next time.